This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Ethiopia begins massive testing services campaign to help contain the spread of the coronavirus. Microsoft now says it will continue talks to acquire the American operations of popular video sharing app TikTok. And we'll look at the amazing treasures from ancient Africa in our new special series, Made in Africa. Hello and thank you for joining us on Africa Live. I am Peninah Karibe, also lined up this hour. Nigeria extends over $41 million in credit to maize farmers. And Ugandan boxing team captain Shadir Musa all set for debut appearance in Tokyo Games. We begin in Ethiopia, where a massive campaign has been rolled out across the country to combat the coronavirus pandemic. The launch of the COVID-19 prevention and testing campaign was announced late on Saturday by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. According to the campaign program, the country will test 200,000 people for the virus in the coming 2 weeks. Depending on the results, authorities will decide on whether to resume in-person schooling. Increasing testing is also expected to aid in decision-making with regard to prevention and control measures. Authorities say that the nation is now better equipped to deal with the outbreak. Ethiopia has set up 54 quarantine facilities across the country and locally produces hand sanitizer. Ethiopia has so far confirmed more than 18,000 coronavirus cases and nearly 8,000 recoveries. For more details now, we're joined live by Coletta Wanjohi from Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. Coletta, what more can you tell us about this newly launched campaign against COVID-19?
Well, Peninah, the main target of the government going for mass testing and for a span of 1 month is to kind of understand the trend of COVID-19, because it admits that COVID-19 cases are increasing, but it needs to understand the trend in terms of location, in terms of the type of cases that are coming out, so that it can better plan, because we know August is the last month for Ethiopia. In September, it begins a new year. So it expects that at least if it does a 1 month testing, mass testing, it will be able to plan better when it comes to the next year. So the government says already it has 45,000 quarantine facilities that have 45,000 quarantine beds. So it is able to admit as many people as possible, depending on what outcome will come from this mass testing. So it expects this to go, especially according to community-based mass testing, where we are expected to see at least community-based workers moving from place to place, encouraging people to go for mass testing.
And what's the latest coronavirus infection figures in Ethiopia, and why is there urgency to ramp up testing services?
Well, it's good to note that the Africa CDC considers Ethiopia one of the few countries in the continent that have been progressing very well in terms of increasing the testing. And of course, as we stand now, the cases are still high. On 1st August, we saw the country registering over 900 cases per day. But where we stand now, if we go by the statistics as of yesterday, which is supposed to be the latest before the Ministry of Health reveals more statistics today, Ethiopia has recorded at least 18,000 positive cases of coronavirus, and of these, over 10,000 are active. There have been progressive in terms of recoveries, and some few deaths, about 300 deaths. So Ethiopia says it has the potential to, because we know the Prime Minister has already hinted on the fact that they will start local manufacturing of test kits, and that will be able at least to encourage the country to do more testing. And in addition to that, the fact that they're having a lot of PPEs now and also sanitizers being manufactured within the country, it gives the country more resources to invest in terms of testing and caring for those who are sick, instead of spending a lot of foreign exchange in terms of buying from outside.
All right, Coletta Wanjohi live for us in Addis Ababa. Many thanks. Ugandan authorities are concerned that flouting of health guidelines by transport sector operators could lead to an increase in COVID-19 cases. The government last month allowed motorbike taxis to resume operations. Riders have been asked to follow strict measures to curb the spread of COVID-19. This including keeping records of all passengers they transport. Leon Senyange tells us more.
As Uganda eases its COVID-19 lockdown restrictions, the country's transport sector remains under tight supervision. Motorbike taxis, also known as border borders, must follow strict measures to curb the spread of COVID-19. Each rider is required to wear a mask and carry a temperature gun. The government is concerned that many operators are flaunting the regulations.
There's been a lot of abuse, unfortunately, that people are not wearing face masks. The border operators themselves are not putting on face masks, and even the passengers are not putting on face masks. Now, this may result like what we saw with the Transcargo drivers. At one time, they became the source of infection. Now, if the border industry also moves unguardedly in that direction, then it will soon become the source of infection. And so we should not be shocked if we are to go back in a lockdown.
Riders must also keep a register of all passengers they carry and their telephone contacts.
I've asked my passengers for their documents because it's what is required of us to do now. Many just go away and you cannot insist on taking them.
Not all motorbike taxi users have warmed up to registering every time they are to take a ride. They say writing their details with every rider is giving away too much about themselves. They are worried that could put them in harm's way.
We definitely have to worry. These national ID numbers or our telephone numbers can be used to track you on anything. We have to be concerned.
Motorbike taxis are an easy mode of transport to get around, with some passengers comfortable to once again use the motorbike taxis during this pandemic. The riders are keen to remain on the road.
If I have my helmet and my mask, and the passenger too has their face shield, some passengers carry sanitizers. They even spray the money they give us.
The government is tightly regulating the operations of motorbike taxis. The establishment of free zone areas for riders to operate is likely to keep Muwereza and 1,000 others out of the central business district. Leon Sanyanga, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Meanwhile, global confirmed coronavirus cases have passed 18 million. The United States alone has recorded 4.6 million. That's a quarter of the world's total tally. U.S. lawmakers remain in a standoff over a new relief package. The White House says it's not optimistic in the short term a deal can be reached. Democrats and Republicans in Congress are debating an extension of unemployment benefits that provided an extra $600 a week. And Dr. Deborah Birx, one of White House's top health experts, says the outbreak in the U.S. has entered a new phase. She also says the virus is extraordinarily widespread in rural and urban areas. Still in the U.S., Microsoft says that it will continue talks to acquire the American operations of popular video sharing app TikTok. That's after the company officials talked with President Donald Trump, who has seemingly backed off earlier threats to ban the Chinese-owned platform. Microsoft stated that it would continue negotiations with ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese parent company, and finish by September 15th. Meanwhile, ByteDance has accused Facebook of plagiarism and smears, but didn't elaborate. The Chinese firm also said it faces complex difficulties as it works to grow into a global company. TikTok boasts some 1 billion users around the world. The immediate losers of a US ban on TikTok would be social media influencers who post videos on the platform to make a living. CGTN's Toby Muse reports.
President Donald Trump's announcement that he wants to shut down access to TikTok in the United States has upset many Americans who spend hours on the app viewing and creating content. Ehi Omije is a prominent TikToker with thousands of followers.
Oh my gosh, I think initially it was just panic. It was for a lot of people. I think for those of us who are at the top of creating, who make their money through TikTok, things like that, we're really scared. And also for like the smaller, larger creators like myself, I was upset about not being able to connect with my followers anymore, not being able to be that voice for them. So I think it was just like panic and like sadness.
TikTok has seen stunning success around the world and in the United States, capturing the attention of the highly sought-after teenage demographic and those in their early 20s. TikTok says it has 80 million active users in the US. It also employs some 1,400 workers here, with plans to hire another 10,000 in the coming years. The Trump administration says the app could be a security threat, having the potential to share users' information with the Chinese government. TikTok has denied this. For users like Ehi, he doesn't worry.
TikTok in general just has become a place of positivity. I think a lot of us use it to say how we feel, to connect with one another. So I don't think any of us feel unsafe. We keep going back to it for this place of just to lift up, to be better and to feel better.
Since Trump's threat on Friday, observers are wondering what comes next. Will it be banned, or will it be purchased by Microsoft in a multi-billion-dollar deal with the Chinese-owned parent company, ByteDance?
The TikTok app right now is the banning of it is like one of those things. Like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? There's obviously concern from users, and only time will really tell if A, it gets banned, and B, how does the general public react to this?
Kotak says there is more scrutiny now on all social media companies and how they use data of users. And because of TikTok's success with youngsters and ownership by a foreign company, the scrutiny is even more intense. Many TikTokers are thinking about their plan B, a way around the potential ban, or which app they may jump to next if the axe does fall on TikTok.
I feel comfortable right now with where TikTok is. We got there's a message that was just sent out by the general manager saying that we're fine and we're going to be moving forward, and I really believe that and am feeling really supported by TikTok. If it does, a lot of people are talking about going to Instagram and things like that.
He's hopeful he can keep making videos on the app where he's built a loyal following. Toby Muse, CGTN, Washington.
Meanwhile, TikTok's US general manager has spoken out amid the uncertainty about the platform's future there. She thanked users for their support and vowed the app will remain in the United States for the long run.
I want to say thank you to the millions of Americans who use TikTok every day, bringing their creativity and joy into our daily lives. We've heard your outpouring of support and we want to say thank you. We're not planning on going anywhere. TikTok is a home for creators and artists to express themselves, their ideas, and connect with people across different backgrounds. And when it comes to safety and security, we're building the safest app because we know it's the right thing to do. So we appreciate the support. We're here for the long run, and continue to share your voice here, and let's stand for TikTok.
13 minutes into the hour, time for us to take a quick break. Here's what's still ahead. We tell you why many Ethiopians were out in the streets amid renewed talks over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And we'll look at the amazing treasures from ancient Africa in our new special series, Made in Africa.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself. If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Ethiopians have been celebrating progress in the construction of the country's dam on the Blue Nile River. Sunday's celebration came after Ethiopian officials announced that the first stage of filling the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam's reservoir has been achieved due to heavy rains. Tens of thousands of residents flooded the streets of the capital, Addis Ababa, to celebrate in an event dubbed One Voice for Our Dam.
Ethiopia's Deputy Prime Minister Demeke Mekonnen called on the public to rally behind the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam and support the completion of its construction. Hashtags like It's My Dam, Ethiopian Nile Rights and God trended among Ethiopian social media users. And celebrations over the filling of the dam were not just in Ethiopia's capital of Addis Ababa. Similar events were also held in other cities in Ethiopia.
We came out here to celebrate the filling of our dam. I don't have words to explain to you how happy I am. We really support the government and I want to show our solidarity. So far we have used charcoal to bake our bread, but after this we will use electricity.
We are so excited for two reasons today. First, the most important is the filling of the Nile Dam. It is essential for us, and secondly, we're celebrating this together with our wedding.
Ethiopia says the dam will provide electricity to millions of its nearly 110 million citizens and help them out of poverty. Once completed, the dam would also make Ethiopia a major power exporter. Chamwono, CGTN.
And for more on these developments, we are joined by Adel Mahroui from Ras Sedr in Egypt and Grum Chala in the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. Adel, negotiations about the Nile Dam project in Ethiopia are set to resume. What will Egypt be seeking to attain in the fresh round of talks?
Egypt is still persisting to a certain forms of guidelines and requests that is holding strong to. Cairo understands that the first phase that Ethiopia is celebrating, as we've seen in the last report, has been more or less due to the current status, the geographic status of the heavy rains that has supported that. At least this is the official announcement from Addis Ababa. But Cairo fears that this will not be the case for the coming years when the massive basic one that will generate much more power is needed, and this is what Egypt wants to regulate. It wants to regulate and reach a legally binding agreement over the management and the filling of the for the dam, so that the three countries can successfully support each other in this road without affecting or harming the volume of water that both Egypt and Sudan receive throughout the years, and specifically when this source of fresh water is the almost the main source for Egypt. It represents more than 90% of the fresh water, and for Sudan it's quite similar, and therefore the countries want to make sure that this is reached before the next phase of the filling begins.
Garoom, there has been a major outpouring of support by Ethiopians for its Nile Dam hydropower generation project. What more can you tell us about this?
So the rally we've seen earlier, and it happened on a Sunday night, by the way, Sunday afternoon more or less throughout the night, was something that people have been expecting for a long time. As you know, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is close to many Ethiopians' hearts, as it is being financed directly by almost all the people of this country, because there is no global financing at the moment, even from the beginning, to build this dam. So everyone has one way or another contributed for the building of this Grand Renaissance Dam through buying bonds and contributions of money and even know-how and other contributions to build this dam. Now, Peninah, this celebration is significant for Ethiopia and Ethiopians. This is also a sign of yet another solidarity with the construction of this grand dam in this country, and also a sign, as we spoke to people on the streets of Addis Ababa, a sign of hope at the end of the day that Ethiopia is going to prosper using its resource that has never been tapped for years and years, and now there is light at the end of a tunnel. So this celebration is significant, and people are also hoping that this celebration could also be done in other parts of the continent, as the generation of the power from this important dam is going to help other countries free themselves from the bonds of poverty.
Adel, Egypt has ruled out any military action over this River Nile dispute. What alternative dispute resolution mechanisms is the country willing to pursue if negotiations stall again?
So this was actually a significant move from the Egyptian president, and a wise step as well, because in the recent months we've been seeing media reports from both countries about resorting to military intervention, the power of the Ethiopian army or the power of Egyptian army. And the president said, he warned actually last week that this is a message to the public opinion and such a tone must not be tolerated. And therefore he, for the first time, has put an end to all of these speculations, confirming that that any military intervention is not an option. El-Sisi stresses that the only way throughout this crisis is through negotiations and through the three countries to support each other's development and refrain from any harm that will fall on the people of the three nations. And that's the key here. Now, what will happen? The next round of talk is quite crucial. It's the beginning of another round with hopes to reach an agreement this time. Luckily, the three nations have much more time than the tight framework than they had right before Ethiopia's ultimatum to fill in July, and therefore there is plenty of negotiations to finalize and reach an agreement. In any case, these talks will proceed. An African solution and direct negotiations between the three countries is what Cairo is looking for, but whatever will happen next, there are other political solutions. Egypt still says that it might resort to the Security Council once again if necessary, but it doesn't hope so. And this is the key to the importance of the negotiations and their outcomes in the coming period. Once the are capable to reach an agreement to maintain that Egypt will not be harmed in terms of the share of its waters, so Ethiopia can have its development with the support of Egypt and Sudan, I think there is a possible room and enough time to reach a win-win scenario.
And Girum, given the delicate negotiation process with Egypt and Sudan, what sort of compromises is Ethiopia willing to accept?
Well, when it comes to negotiations, compromise may not be the right word, Peninah, for this sort of talks going on between the three countries, Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan. Rather, this negotiation should be based on a win-win understanding of using this Nile resource together without harming one another. Now, harm could be defined according to the negotiators here in two terms. One, as Egypt claims, it could be by minimizing the watershed that is going to Egypt, which is going to affect its agriculture sector, and in general terms, economy itself and the livelihood. On the other side also, if a country like Ethiopia, for instance, is not using its water resource for a longer time, harm is also going to be there. So what is the solution? And I was speaking to the Minister of Water, Irrigation and Energy of the country a few moments ago, and he was telling me, we are hoping that the talks are going to start very soon, in the coming few days, and it is going to be a negotiation based on a win-win understanding. Ethiopia, time and again, has said it, and he has also reiterated his stand that there is no way that Ethiopia is planning or even in the slightest terms to affect Egypt's situation. It's a people, because remember, this Grand Renaissance Dam is going to be constructed and it is going to be completed to serve Ethiopian people, and there is no logic that is going to be there to affect other people who are going to live in Egypt or Sudan. So negotiation is the word. May not be compromised. Ethiopia wants to give and take in this scenario. For instance, in the filling of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam from 5 to 7 years, Egypt's proposal is a bit higher. They might meet somewhere in the middle. We don't know, but negotiations are going to continue. But one thing I can assure you is that Ethiopia will not allow something that is going to affect the benefits of its people for a longer run, or even the management of the Grand Renaissance Dam itself involving the third party. In this case, could be Egypt or Sudan, because this is solely owned by Ethiopia and Ethiopians. That's what we have heard, Peninah.
All right, Girum Chala live for us in Addis Ababa, and Adel Mahri live from Ras Sidr in Egypt. Thank you both for joining us. The African Union mission in Somalia has a new force commander. Lieutenant General Diomede Ndegeya from Burundi replaces Ethiopia's Lieutenant General Tigabu Yilma. The incoming General Ndegeya will head the AMISOM teams from Burundi, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya and Uganda. His career spans more than 38 years, and he previously served in Somalia from 2007 to 2009, where he was a part of the Burundi National Defense Forces. Later in 2012, he was part of a reconnaissance mission to the Bay and Bakul regions of Somalia. Prior to his new position, he was working as a senior advisor to Burundi's defense minister. He is also a published writer focusing on peacekeeping missions in Africa and the professionalization of the Burundi National Defense Forces. The new AMISOM chief was received at Mogadishu's International Airport by senior AMISOM military officers.
To help Africa, to help Somalia, our brothers I was been here maybe 5 or 6 times before, from 2007 to 2012.
China has fully completed and begun operation of its homegrown Beidou navigation satellite system. Its products have been exported to over 120 countries and regions. Officials detailed achievements and future plans of the system at a press conference this morning. Our reporter Sonia was there and she filed the following report.
The Beidou system, a homegrown navigation system, is a system of global service and is open to the world. The spokesperson actually said several times today that this system is for the world to share. Let's take a listen.
You can see that our system can provide navigation and positioning services globally. The number of satellites in our system has increased significantly. We picked several cities in the world to test our positioning services. The accuracy is around 2 to 3 meters, better than our release numbers.
High accuracy is one of Beidou's biggest edge over other navigation systems. And he also said that the system it's not a matter of interference, but a matter of synergy with other navigation systems, that's including GPS and Europe's Galileo. He also actually expected more cooperation in application with these other navigation systems. And talk about where Beidou is used. As of now, Beidou products have been exported to over 120 countries and regions across the world. Officials today also said that it's not only about the applications. Today, the Satellite Navigation Office actually have made this book of Beidou technicalities public and available for all. This is a book of control document, and industries and companies who have this information, they can develop and use Beidou's technology on their own.
With rising coronavirus cases across the globe, people are finding ways of adapting to new norms of physical distancing and increased hygiene. Among these are churchgoers in the Mexican city of Cuernavaca who now attend religious services at a drive-in cinema. Here's Lucas Tanyabo with that story.
For 2 Sundays, the Cuernavaca Diocese in Mexico has celebrated Mass at a drive-in cinema.
Amen.
Here, Catholic faithful have the chance to attend the services from the safety of their cars.
When the idea of this Mass took place, people celebrated because now many people can receive the sacramental communion. And participating here of the Eucharist in your car is a very sought-after communion.
Safety measures such as temperature checks are in place on arrival for attendees. The congregation also has the option of listening to the service through their car radios.
This is the most important activity of all, to be here with Christ. I think risking it all for him is worth it.
Churches in Mexico are now able to reopen their doors. However, many people still feel more comfortable attending services where it is easier to maintain physical distance.
Taking into account all these risks, and in this context, we also seek the way to take care of our congregation. Take care of anybody coming here, and the event of Come to Mass in your car has precisely this sense, to take care of all people and that they undergo the least risk possible.
Faithful can now attend the drive-in Mass either by contacting the diocese to receive a registration code or arrive early to see if spaces are available. Wilkis Anyabo, CGTN.
A reminder of our top stories. U.S. technology company Microsoft now says it will continue talks to acquire the American operations of popular video sharing app TikTok. That's after company officials talked with President Donald Trump, who has seemingly backed off earlier threats to ban the Chinese-owned platform. Microsoft says it will continue negotiations with ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese parent company, and finish by September the 15th. Ethiopians have been celebrating progress in the construction of the country's dam on the Blue Nile Nile River. Sunday's celebration came after Ethiopian officials announced that the first stage of filling the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam's reservoir has been achieved due to heavy rains. Tens of thousands of residents flooded the streets of the capital Addis Ababa to celebrate in an event dubbed One Voice for Our Dam. And the African Union mission in Somalia has a new force commander. Lieutenant General Diomede Ndegeya from Burundi replaces Ethiopia's Lieutenant General Tigabu Yilma. The incoming General Ndegeya will head the AMISOM teams from Burundi, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya and Uganda. His career spans more than 38 years and he previously served in Somalia from 2007 to 2009. Coming up in business. Nigeria extends over $41 million in credit to maize farmers. And South Africa pushes plan to implement a universal basic income grant to March next year.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Nigeria's central bank has issued a $41.2 million credit facility to maize farmers in the country. This comes after the bank placed a ban on maize importation in order to boost local production. Kelechi Emekalam has the details.
Another planting season for maize farmer Abubakar Sabitu. He has spent the past 2 decades cultivating maize, a staple food widely consumed in Nigeria. But lots of farmers like himself haven't enjoyed favorable yields and sales. Besides contending with imports, financing has been a major challenge. Now the Apex Bank's ban on maize importation and its $41.2 million credit facility to maize farmers would help boost production.
The challenges I face every farming season is access to fertilizer. Because every year we farm, we have to budget for fertilizer. But most years, there's always a hike in the price, and it affects our calculation due to the price differences. This makes us to always seek financial help, and in some cases, the fertilizer is not readily available.
If part of this money will be used to acquire tractors and some machines that will make our work easier and encourage us to do more, we will go a long way. If I was farming 1 hectare and now I have these inputs available, I can farm up to 10 hectares.
According to Nigeria's Bureau of Statistics, maize seed imports alone was over $4.6 million in the first quarter of 2019. And that's excluding other byproducts from maize running into millions of dollars. The Apex Bank hopes to stimulate economic recovery, safeguard rural livelihoods, and increase job opportunities affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's the right step in the right direction. And don't forget, it's only for this season. You also go to have dry season farmers. There are also high exportable ones that we're already exporting, like sesame seed, shea butter, ginger. Those we are not even mentioned, but we are exporting those. So they require equal attention. So these ones are where Nigeria has significant comparative advantage compared to other African countries. And so we need to put resources behind those.
About 40,000 maize farmers will access the credit facility. Among other interventions, the funds would go into agro inputs like fertilizers, seeds, and agrochemicals. The farmers are expected to double their output this year, as well as provide 1.5 million metric tons of maize for animal feed. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN Abuja, Nigeria.
The South African government says it will not implement a universal basic income grant until March next year. This rolls back the pledge to have the policy ready by October. An emergency unemployment grant of $21 as well as top-ups to existing child and old age grants were introduced earlier this year amid the coronavirus lockdown. The grant is expected to expire in October, but the government says it is unrealistic to expect a universal basic income grant by the end of the period. The World Bank says the economic crisis caused by the coronavirus has pushed for the consideration of the grant despite no country paying out an unconditional universal basic income. It adds that a temporary basic income for the world's poorest 2.7 billion people could help slow the spread of the virus. Still in the country, the automotive market in South Africa is slowly recovering. Automakers and dealerships were forced to close at the end of March when South Africa went into a hard lockdown. While manufacturers reopened mid-May, industry experts say it's still going to be a while before a full recovery. The sales market is, however, seeing a speedy turnaround. Sumitra Naidu tells us more.
The automotive industry in South Africa contributes over 7% to GDP. The sector also accounts for almost 500,000 jobs, but the industry has been taking strain due to the poor state of the economy. COVID-19 has added to the industry's woes.
The automotive sector arguably is the only success case of a proactive industrial strategy in South Africa in the last generation. The sector undoubtedly is our single most value-added export. So it's an industry with high IP, significant levels of FDI that is attracted to the country.
Car dealerships reopened in May, but people were either too scared to go out or had no money to look at a new purchase. Vehicle sales in May fell 68%.
In March, for an example, we've seen a 98% drop of vehicle sales, particularly the domestic vehicle sales in the country compared to the previous corresponding period. And that number is beginning to pick up again because obviously the economy is back online and we are able now to trade as much as possible.
While the domestic market is expected to recover this year, the export market, which fell 64% in May, could take longer.
Car sales fell by almost 31% in June. It's a massive decline. However, finance institutions say that this decline is unlikely to continue as they're seeing more applications for finance this year than they did last year.
People are buying used cars because you can get a better deal for the money and potentially pay less for a used car. What the dealerships are doing, and those that are succeeding during the lockdown and during this time, is employing strategies that are referred to as automotive digital retailing. They're upgrading their websites, putting in place technology so that consumers that are buying cars can not only apply for finance, but actually go through the journey of getting finance for the car.
The demand for new vehicles is improving. Vehicle prices rose above inflation for the first time since 2017. June consumer inflation rose 2.2%, while vehicle inflation rose 6.5%. Sumitra Naidu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
China is banning the use of non-degradable plastic bags in major cities starting next year under an ambitious environmental guideline. It's something restaurant and delivery services heavily rely on. Xia Ruishui looks at whether they're ready for the big change.
It's less than half a year before non-degradable plastic bags are banned in China. Some restaurants, milk tea shops and coffee shops have already made the move. Since 2019, Heytea, a Chinese cheese-topping milk tea chain, has adopted cups, bags, drinking straws and tissue paper made from compostable materials. At first, it was hard to persuade customers to use paper straws instead of plastic ones.
It has a better user experience to use the plastic straws when drinking the milk tea, but we insisted on introducing our degradable paper straws and to tell customers how eco-friendly they are. Now the number of people who choose to use the paper straws is increasing. We can see the change.
It's time for us to do something for nature. Many people are aware of the importance of using eco-friendly products. It will take time, but I believe more people will support it.
Longdu Tianren, a company in Nanle County in central China's Henan province, is well known for producing degradable products from cornstarch and wheat straws. Most of its products are sold to the US and European countries. Now it's thinking of improving its output to cope with the coming huge domestic demand. It has built new factories, bought more machines, and hired more workers, but still not enough.
We are considering selling our technologies and management experience to enterprises that produce non-degradable, disposable plastic products. We can help them make a switch, otherwise they have to go out of business next year.
Chinese factories have the ability to produce degradable plastic products, but it's hard for them to produce massively. That's a problem we need to solve at the moment.
Today, more and more people live a green lifestyle. Many have stopped using plastic products, while others have chosen to live a zero-waste life. They take cloth bags and reusable cups when going shopping, and seldom purchase online and never order takeaway food. China has an ambitious plan to curb plastic pollution in major cities by 2025. It will be hard, but many believe the goal will be achieved. 夏瑞雪 CGTN 河南 Province.
My family has been doing this artwork for the past 600 years.
My dream is to be the leading player in Africa in the spice sector.
Nobody in the region consumes it. Even me cannot afford the vanilla cooking.
What we've created here is the elegance, the color, the celebration of life.
Benin bronzes looted in 1897 when the British invaded the Kingdom of Benin, which is now in southern Nigeria, are considered some of Africa's greatest treasures. The craftsmen of Benin are keen to keep the tradition of bronze casting alive. For them, it's a way of life and a way to preserve their heritage for future generations. In the first installment of our special series, we bring you the story of one such artist whose family is associated with this ancient artwork in the past 600 years.
For me, bronze casting is a way of life, and we are the one keeping those heritage, because we grow up and we see what our ancestors have done, and to keep it alive, we have to follow suit so that our oncoming children or generation will see what our ancestors have done. I'm Fred Ebuwa. I'm a bronze caster. I'm from Benin, the home of bronze. My family has been doing this artwork for the past 600 years. Right from the time of Obaewaye, it was not making money business. It was only to worship the Oba, to keep events. That's how they were doing it then, because our ancestors then, they wasn't selling it. It had been taken to the palace, and to some high-ranking chiefs as a souvenir, as a gift. In our ancestor days, it was just to keep an history, to keep event. Since the ancient Benin, there wasn't writing. They only give mark that so and so time this thing happened. Then the best way to preserve those history was through bronze casting. As for me, I will call myself a craftsman because my ancestors, they were all craftsmen, not an artist. Everything a craftsman does is in his head. You don't need to draw. That's why if you see most craftsmen, they took time to observe things. Like me now, I'll be looking at the shape of my hand. I look at the shape of my hand. Why am I looking at it? If you ask me to mold a hand now, I don't need a sketch of a hand. I just memorize that which I have seen. I'll begin to mold. Today I will show you the process of how to cast a bronze. I'm going to make an abstract of an upper edge right from the very first stage through the wax process before casting. This is the very first beginning of how to do bronze casting. First and foremost, you have to mold with the wax. Okay, we are done with the wax modeling. We are moved to the next stage of which is casting. This is the second stage after modeling. We have to cover the red sand. Now, I'm prepared to bake. Like in the next 2-3 hours, it will be ready for casting. I've just set the furnace to melt the bronze. In 2 hours, all will be liquid. You see now, it shows that the brass are fully melted. Once the brass are fully melted, it has a flame on it. And now, we are going to bring out what we are going to cast now. I'm doing the casting now. Aha. Now the bronze has been casted, and we need time for it to cool off so that we can break off the red sand from it. Now it has cooled down. We want to break and take to the next process, that which is filing. After this stage now, we file. Where we are now is like everyone is really struggling with the street. But if there is a support, I think this young one now, they can do better than what our forefather did. But the government, they are not supportive. Because everybody that is doing this craft is just on his own. We hear that the UN people are sponsoring it so that the thing will not die. But none of those things comes to the craftsmen. For the fact that the government is not supporting, everybody is just trying to survive. That's even the reason you are not seeing the best of our artworks now. Because there are bills to pay, there are things to run. If one is bothered or troubled, you cannot see the best of him. But when one is relaxed, I promise you, anytime he brings us a particular art, it will be a masterpiece. Here we go, it's ready. My message to the world is that whosoever that want to keep this heritage should come down to this very place and see for himself.
This is Africa Live. Coming up in sports.